By and large, and taking everything about it into consideration, Bleach's Fullbring arc is one of the best examples I can think of a distilled encapsulation of what I look for and love in art and stories. Hedged in a bit of an awkward spot in the narrative and burdened by a lot of functions to carry out, it hits this perfect balance of building upon the foundations previously established, progressing things, and transitioning into the next phase of the story, but most importantly, it is unabashed and proud of what it has to say and how it says it. Now, I'm not at all saying that this arc doesn't have problems, but in the face of how strongly it conveys and expresses its messages, those flaws feel arbitrary and insubstantial in the grand scheme of things, and it's hard to think of many arcs that have hit this strong of a home run with me in recent memory. Fullbring is intimate, it's personal, and it is painstaking with how it stops and takes a breath at the agonizing lull that is this period of Ichigo's life. It takes Ichigo's self-imposed purpose away from him and strips him down to what feels like nothing for him, rendering this boy who needed power to feel like he was worth something totally powerless. It leaves us empty, feeling like something is missing, drifting melancholically in the frigid night wind. Kind of like the story has us feeling consistently in the litany of introspective moments prior to this. It essentially builds that feeling up and has us experience it to such an extreme as Ichigo's connections, the reason he does anything at all, are stripped away from him one by one. Fullbring's first half pulls no punches in bringing forth and wringing out all that it can from that hollow contemplation as it takes our hero to the literal brink. The unplaceable becomes concrete, the lingering fears become all too real, and the melancholy becomes gutting tragedy as Ichigo's loved ones turn on him, despicably manipulated by Tsukishima as he compensates for his own loneliness by inserting himself as a beloved friend into all of these lives. But then, this arc pulls a complete 180 to the previous style. It takes our empty hearts and fills them to the brim with earnest hope and love, with answers that we and Ichigo knew deep within ourselves but never had the capability to truly uncover. And I think what helps this hit as hard as it does is the presence of those lows and that darkness that we experienced prior that also gets further established from here on, from one extreme to another. Throughout this arc, we have characters that are confronted with pain and tragedy, who come together licking their own wounds endlessly with no real hope of looking past how they've been hurt, of looking past that cycle of loneliness, simply because of the extreme nature of that pain. Aizen puts himself above all and out of reach of connection and states himself to be a god. And Ginjo similarly became a god for these people, but not due to an apparent absence of humanity. He becomes the god of this little world because he had gone through what they had, that pain, isolation, and betrayal, and came out the other side personifying the answer that they sought. Yet, the thing about the Fullbringers and Ginjo is that they, for one reason or another, were quite literally trapped within their own mental framework, unable to see solutions in hope and unable to see an option in affection and trust. Ginjo quelled his own loneliness and the loneliness of others with these relationships, particularly the one with Tsukishima, but in the context of his worldview it was but a footnote to his ultimate goal: revenge on the Soul Society for using and betraying him. He was so hurt that he literally could not see the world as one worth salvaging, could not see his life as anything other than a vehicle for his agonized wrath. And that is no way to live. But this is not simply due to internal, inherent individual difference and nature. There is a great deal of luck involved too. To break this cycle of loneliness, it requires a flexible perspective, hope, idealism, forgiveness, love, and a true sense of what truly matters in one's life. But I'm sure that Ichigo would be the first to admit that if he was in Ginjo's circumstances and had gone through what he had, there's a good chance that he would have similarly given in and not seen a way out. That's just how life is. It's unfair. But those who are able to understand, empathize, see other sides, and persevere through their heart of hearts to keep pushing and trying and believing and understanding and loving, they will break the cycle and find the light beyond. Ichigo has changed in so many ways, but in so many others, at his core he has stayed the same. In some ways, he hasn't changed at all. It was his steadfastness that caused the Soul Society's million years of immutability to be toppled. It's that unchanging core of pure love, empathy, and compassion, combined with an otherworldly, fervent passion to never say die in a world that tempts him to submit to the abyss. That is what allows Ichigo to reclaim himself, see the world for what it is, and choose to have faith. When he feels as if he has lost all that he holds dear, the connections that he's fostered throughout the story reveal to him the entire world that he opened himself up to due to his pure desire to never stop understanding others, never stop communicating, and never stop looking for an answer. Imperfectly, honestly, and raw. And afterwards, when Ichigo is faced with the ultimate betrayal in the form of Ginjo, the sort of betrayal directly mirroring the one that made Ginjo completely lose faith in life and made him incapable of seeing trust and forgiveness and hope, Ichigo instead seeks understanding. He doesn't reject Ginjo's words. He doesn't give up like him and join him in his loneliness, like Ginjo was surely wishing for in his heart of lonely hearts. Instead, he sees his perspective and simply disagrees due to differing experiences. He doesn't invalidate him, but he instead seeks another answer, one that Ginjo never saw. And that search for that answer, that is Ichigo. He is haggard, lacking in self-comprehension, self-destructive, and dangerously impulsive. He pushes the friends he loves away for their sake without thinking of what they actually want and need. He stumbles and loses himself. But above all, Ichigo loves. He loves with all his heart and chooses to see hope in the world. And in this experience we call life, that pure warm intent, that care, it's something that people respond to. And so it ensures that he will not walk that path alone, come what may. In a karmic way, he will never be completely alone. And as such, there will always be someone there for him whenever he needs it. Whether it be Rukia, or Orihime, or Uryu, or Chad, or Kenpachi, or Ishin, or Kisuke, or Renji, or the dozens of others that he's enraptured. That is what Fullbring is to me. I described in my previous video about how Bleach is this internally emotive story of loneliness and melancholy, and it absolutely is. But Fullbring is like the rebuttal to that, the contrast and the answer, bursting at the seams with imperfect love, celebrating the beauty of life and connections, and even for those for whom it's too late, offering solace right before the end. The Fullbring arc implores us to never stop trying, never stop hoping, and most importantly, never stop loving. Ichigo, at his core, followed his heart and shifted the tenets of the seemingly immutable Soul Society culture. He melted the frozen heart of Ginjo and had him wondering things that he never would have been able to without him. He is headstrong and impulsive and brute forces his way into situations that he has no business in, but he does it all with a beautiful soul and a capability for empathy and understanding on a level unique to everyone else. And that is the answer, one that all should strive towards. It is no coincidence that one of the biggest personifications of contrast in this arc, Riruka, is so fixated on love, and how in spite of everything she continues to pursue it. And in the most perfect cap to this arc, we have Shishigawara, who's been provided with every reason to despair and give up on his one-sided devotion to Tsukishima, instead deciding that he will continue with his steadfastness in his own way, despite all evidence to that being foolhardy. Just through following his heart and deciding not to justifiably abandon his mentor, he breaks the cycle, just like Ichigo, and his wholehearted devotion allows him to offer that which Tsukishima, in his forlorn existence, could never have dreamed of. It's all about trust and understanding and love. Sometimes stupid love, illogical love, against our better judgment. Because what better weapon is there against what seems like futility than silliness, nonsense, and stupidity? What else could help us reach the light that nothing else grants us access to? What else could make the sun rise when all seems dark, and have a night person appreciate that dawn? I think that this arc means extra to me because this is a world where enthusiasm and earnest love for things is sneered at and mocked, and where it's often hard to see hope. It's easy to let yourself become weathered and give up on trying to love life, find happiness, and be vulnerable. But it is always worth it. Fullbring is flawed. I think it meanders too much. I think it focuses too much on peripherals and quirks that really aren't too engaging and overstay their welcome, and some of the tonal whiplash, particularly in the beginning of the arc, can be pretty turbulent. But at the same time, it is one of my favorite arcs because of how viscerally I can feel Kubo transmitting the emotions and messages that he wanted to convey. His soul is on those pages, his love of connection, his championing of empathy, his encouragement to never stop trying. And it all coalesces in Ginjo's farewell, in Tsukishima seeing the sunrise, in Riruka bidding goodbye, in Rukia helping Ichigo see the light and beauty that he opened her eyes to in the first place. Rough in places, flawed and messy at times, but ascending to heights unimaginable when it all comes together. A self-referential answer to itself, a study and celebration of Ichigo, and a warm embrace encouraging you to not give up on yourself or others. Fullbring is more than a story. It is an arc that absolutely floored me, and it encourages me to keep going. And I can't thank it enough for that. Many thanks for watching.